Hello everyone, I wanted to walk through some ideas on graphical analysis or using graphics or visuals to study your data set or to review the results of your model, whatever the case might be. So first things first, I'm just going to make up some data here. I've got a fictitious traffic data set. So is the accident severe, yes or no? I've got 5 and 5. 5 rows that are yes, 5 rows that are 0. We don't need to worry too much about this. But this is going to be our y variable. We're not running a full model here. I'm just going to show you the exploratory analysis. And I just made up some data here. Now, if you ever make up data on your own just to practice, you always want to make sure that you have a total of a 1 for each row. There we go, perfect. If I had a 0, then that means one of these rows doesn't have a 1 in it. If I had a 2 or a 3 or whatever, it means I had multiple cells in that row with a 1 in it. So everything looks good there. Okay. Now, one of the first things, of course, you should be doing is, and you can do this in different software, is find out how many values in total. So it seems like just right off the bat, sunny weather is the most predominant, and snowy weather is the least predominant out there. So you always want to make sure that that's useful to you. If you had something that had a 0 in it, as a sum, like these would be zeros, that would suggest that this variable is not going to be useful to you, or because you don't have any respondents or observations that where it occurred in your data set. So I would expect your p-values or your r-squared would suffer from that. Excuse me. So back to the visuals here. Now I've got, I could easily do this. I could create, insert. I could do something as simple as this. Back to your visuals, I could do something as simple as, like a pie chart by just taking the sum. And we don't want to do the sum of the y variable. We're just trying to figure out what the breakdown is, right? Like breakdown of our variables. Now, if you have 100 variables, this would be a messy pie chart. But if you remember back to your data analytics class where you did a dashboard, you could easily like checkmark things. So, obviously this isn't beautiful. We didn't add the data labels. Format the data labels. This gets you into all kinds of, series names here. Now, I didn't make this chart super perfect. Right, like I could go to select data. Instead of 1, 2s, and 3s, I could grab the headers here. And now I've got, this here in series name. Whoops, it still says that one. There we go. So now I've got a little bit of a visual. Pardon my little mistakes here. I do this all on the fly. When a student has a question, I like to try to deliver on that. And so I don't spend 2 or 3 hours on an individual video. So enough about that. And then of course you can go in here. I mean, you could keep going here. You could change the color, all that stuff, right? Like a little bit of color change there. So now visually this is the smallest piece, and this could be something you talk about. Like, we could go, the sky's the limit. We could go and look at it as a percentage to say, oh, wow, only 10% of the time is there snowy weather in this data set. So that's one example. Another one that I really like, called the correlation plot. Correlation severity to cloudy. Now this will take a little bit of time for you to set up here. So just keep that in mind. Rainy. And I know there are many different ways to do this. Faster perhaps, or you could code these. But I just want to show you, just so you could get this done, how simple it is. So we're going to correlate the severity, okay, of this with the weather. Now we're going to absolute cell reference these here. Now, just so you know, we're going to get the same result, actually different results because we didn't lock in the B2 to B11, but that's okay. We don't actually want that. We are just moving along here, so correlation is not going to be one that has all these cells completed like the previous one. So what do you do with this? Well, put simply, we're going to, see what we can find out with a column chart maybe. Right, so a little column chart there. And you can change the color schemes, change the layouts, things like that. And go to town on that and talk about that as well. There's you could do a line chart, whatever you want to do. You could do count ifs. Count ifs. This is kind of like count ifs. This is a 1, and this is a 1, right? Like you could do something like this. I'm just going to move this around. I know I'm getting very sloppy here, but you could do something like this and just move along. So what this is saying is every time there's a 1, how many times is there a 1 for cloudy? So every time the accident is severe, how many times is the weather cloudy? Well, look at this. This is beautiful, right? I mean, on one hand, we only have one observation for snowy weather, so to me this makes sense that the probability of this is going to be low. So again, an example of how we could do a chart here, change it up a bit, right? Like the counts, and then you can beautify this. You can add your data labels, call outs, counts, whatever you want to do there. So that's just another one there that gives us some description or an idea of your data set. Because the idea here is, A, you explore it to find some variables that might be good, or hypothesize what variables are useless to even put into the model before you even begin. The other one is you could look at this afterwards to say, aha, so I've got a bad p-value for snowy weather, or maybe an infinity or a 0 for p-value, or something really weird. Okay, I guess I didn't canvass my data that closely, or maybe this is useful in a business meeting because, hey, maybe your function worked really well, except for snowy weather. Maybe when you put a 1 in for snowy weather, you get a bad prediction, and maybe this is why. You can talk at a business meeting, because the way that I look at this, I used to work for a company that was international, and I would work overseas. I had about 200 people that reported to me on my teams, purchasing agents, supply chain agents, all kinds of people, sales analysis, people that negotiated and visited factories for quality control, all kinds of teams based on cost and price optimization. And I could go to this meeting and I could have somebody that represents the northern part of a country, like northern part of China, northern part of the United States, where it gets snowy, right? The weather is a little colder, and they could be really interested in my data and my formula, but it would be silly for me not to know that the data set, only had like one instance of snowy weather, or even 50. I mean, we could have like 50 instances, right? Let's just change this data on the fly, or 5 instances. Oops. And still, none of them exist when we had a severe accident. So I could have that salesperson or that leader, leave the meeting unhappy. They like the technology, they like the math, they like the study, but they're like, well, this didn't really help me any because I'm in a snowy weather region, and apparently, or they were looking for a smoking gun, right? Like your salespeople, your purchasing people, more so as salespeople, they're not looking for a massive formula, right? They're not looking for your SaaS output. They're not looking for this massive algorithm and you whipping out all these numbers. They just want to know, okay, what contributes to the severe accidents in my region? What contributes, or what should I expect, right? If I'm going to go out there and sell insurance, or if I'm going to go out there and sell um, certain equipment for the vehicles or cars, maybe that's the industry I'm in. What are the things that I need to be looking for in a conversation with my customer? Well, okay, according to this data set, um, don't try to tell them that snowy weather contributes to severity in accidents. So blah blah blah. Now, you and I both know as data scientists and data miners that we need more data than 10 rows of data. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. But I just wanted to put this video out there for you, just to give you some ideas on the graphics, and then tie it back into the business perspective. Um, it's great that we have residuals and we can talk about the error, but as I've said before, we're business people, right? We're business people. And so we need to be thinking, keeping our eye on that prize. What is the sizzle that we want to get out of this? Some of our graphics can help us as a data scientist, and some of them can help us explain to our audience. And I know you're going to work on that in your communication class that many of you will take after this one. But just the idea of there's dual purposes with your outputs out there. You certainly can do everything in SAS if you wish, but just wanted to give you some quick and easy ways to have some fun here with doing the visuals in Excel as well. So